Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Peterson.
All right, we are back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. It is a beautiful Wednesday here in Seattle, nice and cloudy, just like we like it. Today is a good day because we got Shawn DeMartile with us from sunny San Diego. Shawn is an expert in multifamily, also hotels and Airbnbs. He got his start as an air traffic controller, which is an interesting story. So I'm super excited to jump into this. Shawn, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm pumped to provide as much value as I can to your listeners and hopefully inspire some people to get out there and get in real estate.
There you go. I told you before we got on here, we like to start with stories. We like to hear how people got started in real estate. I know you got a good one, so take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started?
So starting from the beginning, like you alluded to, I was an air traffic controller. I actually did it for 5 years for the United States Navy here in San Diego. Got out, and after I finished my service, I got hired by the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, doing it for the government. I controlled all the approaches and departures around Orange County, actually. So John Wayne Airport, Fullerton, Long Beach, all those. And I was making good money, felt like I had my dream job, felt like I was set. But I was also like working these crazy hours, usually only had 1 day off a week because they can assign you mandatory overtime since there's a shortage of air traffic controllers. So I was just working all these hours and really started to realize like, man, I do not want to do this and keep like on this grind, this meat grinder of work until I'm, at retirement age. So then I started really reading and getting obsessed with FIRE, financial independence, retire early, that whole stuff. And then one day a friend, this is back in like 2017 or something like that, when a friend recommended Bigger Pockets to me, that I would listen to that podcast. I threw that on while I was on a road trip up to Yosemite, and listened to episode after episode. And then I just got hooked because I was hearing all of these amazing stories from PE teachers and single moms with 4 kids and stuff that were building these real estate portfolios and then eventually able to live off of them from the cash flow. And so that was like a light bulb moment of an avenue I can try and take. And it really kind of just all snowballed from there. Really, like the short version is I read lots of books, every book I heard of off of a podcast or something. I listened to every podcast I could find about real estate, started my own podcast, and then eventually got my first property, which was a 32 unit. Shortly after that, got a mentor. Then we started syndicating larger apartment complexes. And then, the rest is history.
So you started a real estate podcast before you closed on your first property?
Yeah. Yeah, nice. I did.
I love that. And I've actually, so on this podcast, I've suggested people do that because it gives you authority, and it gives you, even when you're talking with sellers, it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, I do have experience in here because I have this podcast. They'll look at you, and even brokers will look at you and have a little bit more confidence that you'll be able to hit the closing table. So that's awesome that you did that. You're actually the first person that had that idea, but I love that you got there. And I like that you said originally, you got into real estate because it is the avenue that the average person can use to achieve financial freedom. You mentioned like PE teachers, single moms, it doesn't matter who you are. If your goal is financial freedom, real estate is, in my opinion, it's the easiest or most, not guaranteed, but more straightforward way to reach your goal.
Absolutely. I mean, what other asset class can you borrow, 95% plus of the money you need to invest and have all of these different strategies, from house hacking to flipping? I mean, there's ways for you to do this with basically no money. I'm not saying that's easy, but it's possible. It just, for me, was the clearest path, especially when so many people have gone before us and done it and replicated the success over and over again. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yep. Yeah. And that's another great thing is that it, creating a business and doing something completely new, a unicorn business is exciting, but it's not the guaranteed way. And that's what's awesome
Right.
about real estate is it's been done so many times by so many people. And if you want to learn how to do it, you can do it. It's not a mystery. It's not rocket science. You can just go out there, go to Bigger Pockets, listen to podcasts like this one, watch YouTube videos. The blueprint is out there, and all you need to do is just follow the steps. So
Especially nowadays. I mean, think about it. Like nowadays, all of the information, basically all of the questions you could have are really at your fingertips, which people 20, 30 years ago didn't have. I mean, it's easier now than ever, minus the home prices, but
yeah, minus the home prices. I want to get into your real estate journey, but before we do that, yeah, I was just curious. You said you got your dream job as an FAA, air traffic controller. I'm just curious, what got you into becoming an air traffic controller? Why did you think, why did you see that as your dream job?
yeah, that's a good question because it's such a unique job that, there's not a whole lot of air traffic controllers and stuff. So a good question. But essentially, I was going to college. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I was going to the University of Louisville. I'd already switched my major once or twice. And, I was just poor and trying to scrape my way through college. My mother worked for TSA, and she had a girlfriend who was married to an air traffic controller. And, my mom gossiping with her about, my struggles through college. She said, oh, well, Tim or whatever his name was, said Shawn can come up and check out the air traffic controller tower and see that job. I went up there, took him up on it, checked it out, was talking to everybody in the control tower. And probably 90% of the people I met there were all telling me they were either ex-military, ex-Navy, or ex-Air Force. And they told me how much money they were making, how air traffic controllers are needed so much, and that it's basically a plug and play if you get the military experience. And I was sold right away. I think shortly after that, I signed up to be an air traffic controller for the Navy, and it worked.
There you go. All right. So moving back to your real estate journey, take us back to that first property you bought. So you started the podcast, which is awesome. And then you bought your apartment unit. Did you go into single family, or did you go directly into multifamily?
I went directly into multifamily. I really wanted to go directly into multifamily after, if you study real estate and listen to podcasts enough, you will hear about, investors' natural progression for the most part, with starting with single families or whatever their strategy is, and eventually trying to get into larger multifamily because of the economies of scale and all that. So I wanted to jump right in. I actually got my first property was a 32 unit apartment. I didn't get that by myself. I split that with 5 other people, and it was a joint venture. And I liquidated my 401k in order to come up with.
Before you go on, you said you split it with 5 other people. Tell us, how'd you find it? How did you meet these people? Really dive deep into that first deal that you did.
Let's do it. So the people that I split this deal with, I met in different ways. So number one, 2 of the guys were air traffic controllers with me that were also really getting into wanting to invest in real estate. And those 2 guys had already had a couple rental properties. Then, or actually 3 of the guys were air traffic controllers with me. And then the other 2 guys that I split it with, I met one of them at our real estate meetup. And we kind of, because we started the podcast, but we also started a local real estate meetup simultaneously.
Oh, nice.
Met this guy there, and he had actually been.
You did this all with the expectation of you just wanted the network. You just wanted to get out there, get your name known, meet people who were in the field.
Exactly. I was literally, like you said earlier, the blueprint. I was following the blueprint. I think I read Joe Fairless's book, and he went through the process of why you need to do all this stuff. Just like you said earlier, establishing authority, building a reputation, helping it, or, making an avenue for people to know, like, and trust you. Right. So we did everything that was recommended, to the T. So, I met the 4th guy was, and he, like I said, he was already an investor, owned some multifamily, was even a guest on the Bigger Pockets podcast. We brought him in as well, and he had a friend that came in. So that's how the group came together, and we all, invested varying amounts. Okay. Now, how we found the deal was a broker. This property, by the way, was in Greenwood, Indiana, which is, just about 15 minutes south of Indianapolis. Great market. Yeah. And we started networking with brokers in a couple markets. So I think we picked Louisville, Indianapolis, and a couple others that kind of met our criteria. and networked with brokers. And finally, this deal that was a huge value add deal hit the market, made sense to us, and we locked it up. So that's how we got it. And, you know, I guess I'll just give a very 2-sentence version of the business plan. But this was a mom and pop owner, owned it for many years, basically didn't touch the property, managed it themselves, all 32 units. And we went in and did just a heavy value add, replaced a ton of stuff, increased the rents. And within
that's tough for your first deal doing a heavy value add. That's I'm sure. I mean, was somebody on your team, or did they have construction experience, or was it just
no? And I don't recommend people do a heavy value add for their first deal. There was a lot of hurdles. It was tough. We ended up, you know, tripling our investment when we sold it. It went really well. Great. But there were some big, you know, and part of that is also timing the market. Got a little lucky on that. But you know, there was so many things and so many lessons I learned through that. You know, when you're doing a heavy value add, the more layers of the onion you peel back, the more it stinks. Yeah. I mean, you know, this was a 1968 vintage property. There were leaks popping up all over the place. We had to replace cast iron piping. Some clay piping collapsed and underneath our parking lot. I mean, so many things went wrong, which is another reason why I'm not really into older assets anymore. You know, 40, 50-year-old assets I don't like to touch. Mm-hmm. But like, what else can I tell you about that deal that you'd like to know? Because there's all kinds of stuff that went with that deal.
No. That was a good overview. And I got started and I was doing flips. I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't have any construction experience. And you're right, when you're doing heavy value add, most of the danger is in the walls, and that's stuff that you don't necessarily know when you're buying the property. And so you really got to watch out. I'm super glad that you guys tripled your investment when you after the value add. It's good to have a win under your belt when you get that first one done. It's definitely scary going in there doing a heavy one on your first, but glad you guys made it out. After you finished that deal, it sounds like you kept going into multifamily. What was your trajectory after that?
So after that, shortly after that, we were able to get a mentor, and we got him from the podcast. So that's another way that the podcast kind of provided us value. We interviewed him. After the podcast, we're kind of telling him our story, what we're doing. And he said, I'll talk to my brother. Him and his brother, you know, both investors together. They've had over 8,000 apartment units. Oh, nice. And they agreed to take us on one-on-one as mentors. So that was really what kind of increased our trajectory substantially, because from there, we were able to leverage their experience. They syndicated 2 deals back to back with us, sponsored them, invested in them themselves, and held our hand through those deals. And that allowed us to raise millions of dollars from, you know, our friends, family, air traffic controllers, because we had that experience with us. And so we basically got 300 units in Greensboro, North Carolina. Next, you know, and those were basically purchased back to back, just a couple months apart. And then
on market too, through brokers?
No, these were off market. So actually, what's cool about those deals that made it so much easier, because I mean, they were basically hand fed to us from our mentors. But these are 2 assets that they already had in their portfolio that were performing really well and had even more value add to do. So they'd essentially finished their business plan and had owned them for 6 years already. And so we came in with our investors and repurchased the property, and then did a whole nother renovation plan and crushed it. Honestly, it worked out great. So those were purchased off market. His old investors crushed it. And then we came in with ours and was able to squeeze out a whole bunch more value.
Nice, man. I love it. And it's all from mentors. We, on this podcast, I always recommend people find a mentor, find somebody that you can learn from if you really want to learn quickly and scale your business, because there's so much you can learn just from watching somebody do a deal. Even if you're not, a co-GP or a JV in the deal, even if you just invest in somebody's syndication, you can learn so much from watching a deal be done alongside somebody who has tons of experience. So it sounds like you guys really lucked out there. You got a great mentor. You got to do deals with them. Yeah. So that's good to hear. Since then, it looks like you guys have gone into boutique hotels and Airbnbs. Why the switch, and how has managing those properties, how does it differ from the multifamily?
So our switch, it wasn't necessarily a pivot to where like we're not doing multifamily anymore. Actually, multifamily is our main focus right now. We did dabble with the boutique hotel. We're actually hopefully closing on selling that boutique hotel today, and exiting that one and doing well for our investors. But we went that route because the Airbnbs, those are all like my personal properties just to help with cash flow. So I'll answer that one first. The reason for that was cash flow purposes, because when you're doing these big syndications, even if you're a general partner, you'll make some money, in your acquisition fee. You're not making really enough to keep the lights on, from asset management fees. If you have those, most of your money is going to come when you sell the property as a GP. Yeah. So, we wanted to grow the business, and to do so, we needed inflows of cash. So that was the reason to going the short-term rental route. Now, the boutique hotel, we bought that on the coast of California it's called the Lost Coast, a little north of San Fran, right on the water. It's on a black sand beach. And that was a value add play. But I will say about boutique hotels is that you can make some really good cash flow on it if you're managing it yourself, or internally somehow. But the thing about them is that I've learned is that it takes substantially more work. It takes a larger team to do boutique hotels, and I don't think that on a risk adjusted basis and just on a time and work basis that it's worth it to do that over multifamily. Yeah. It just takes so much more operations. It's operations heavy. And in order to do that, you're hiring employees.
Yeah. You're talking like, turning the rooms, maids, cleaning service, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that, and, your staff that is going to handle guest messages and making sure that, if you've got this was a 10-room hotel. So there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. And at the end of the day, like if your returns are similar or a little less or even a little more than multifamily, I just don't want to do that because travel is also cyclical. So if I'm going to be doing a business plan like that requires so much more work, I want higher returns. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, whenever the economy gets in a really bad place, the first thing that people cut is travel. So it becomes a little harder to underwrite as you're going into uncertain times. I mean, I could go on, but for me, on a risk adjusted basis and on a time management basis, multifamily is way easier.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. During down, when the economy goes down, anything boutique hotel, motel related, you got to watch out for. I will say for anybody interested in kind of short-term stay stuff, RV parks are technically considered recession resistant. So if that's something you are interested in, RV parks are a great way to go. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I just took a peek at the clock. It looks like we have run it down. So it's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. Give me 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate specific.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
So for general life wisdom, I think How to Win Friends and Influence People is an easy one. I've read it 3 or 4 times now, and I just started rereading it not long ago, like a month ago, slowly. But that book you could apply it to life, but also business. And it's really helped me in both facets big time. Real estate specific, I think one of my favorite books is going to be Joe Fairless's The Best Ever Syndication book, just because that applies to my business. If you're interested in syndicating apartments, it's a really good starter kind of blueprint to lay down like a foundation of what you need to learn. So I love that book. I think it's great. It even has a glossary at the end with like all of like key investing terms and multifamily terms. So it's a good starter book.
Cool. I love it. Joe Fairless, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People. Who was that written by again?
Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Oh yeah.
All right. Next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to Shawn, who was just in his FAA or his air traffic controller position. He was thinking about investing in real estate. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Stop spending your money on anything other than saving it to invest in real estate. Stop blowing it. I would want to slap myself in the face and tell myself that over and over again, and tell myself to buy as much property as I could right then and there with those low interest rates.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I was working corporate before I got into real estate, and I was making, 100,000 something, and I never had money, and I don't know what I did with all that money. I was just like, just going out, eating it away, drinking it away.
Nothing to show for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next question is about your business. The first 3 positions we hire form the foundation of our business. So what were they for you, and would you do it differently if you did it again today?
Yeah, the first one, easy, is an assistant, just to be able to handle the minute stuff, podcast stuff and stuff that sucks time out of your day. That's not really moving the needle a lot. Second position is a CFO for me. Whenever you have all of these different LLCs and money moving around a whole lot, either you can be doing these financial reviews consistently or you can have somebody doing it for you. And we have essentially like an a la carte third party CFO that works for us by the hour. Nice. And that made everything so much easier with all of these properties that we're managing. So that second hire, I wouldn't do either of those different. The third hire, it was a business coach for us. And I wouldn't do that different either, because business coaches, unless you have like a really good background in business, like your business structure, your systems, all of this stuff that is basic business stuff. But once you actually get it incorporated into your business really well, it reduces stress and makes your life a lot easier. So I wouldn't change anything about those 3. I maybe would have hired them a little bit earlier, but those were great hires.
Nice. How'd you find your business coach?
I actually found her from we were a part of this business club here in San Diego. And we met her there at like a business club event, and we were impressed with her, gave her a shot, and she's awesome. So, that's just like we were talking about earlier, just like going to events, joining clubs, meetups, all of these things, you will network and meet so many people that could help you in your business.
Yep. Was she specific to real estate, or did she have experience outside of real estate?
No, she's not specific to real estate at all. Nice. We're like her first customers that are in real estate. So it's a little different in that sense, but her expertise with everything else business wise, I think was huge for us.
Yeah, that's the great thing about business is it doesn't matter what business you're in. If it's a business coach, they can apply it to any different sector, real estate, retail, whatever. Business,
absolutely,
especially when it comes to the systems, it's always the same.
Oh yeah.
All right, next question is about the US. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro, the single city you're most excited about investing in today.
I'm going to throw you for a loop here because you're not expecting this, but San Diego, California. And I'll give you the quickest answer that I can. San Diego has a really bad supply and demand problem. They're geographically constrained with the ocean, Mexico, mountains, and Camp Pendleton military base. All of the vacant land has been built on. So the city is increasing density, and they have this crazy municipal code now to let you build basically apartment complexes where single family homes were. On average, 17 people or 17 renters are competing for the same apartment here. Oh, wow. So, I'm just a big believer in seizing the moment when there's supply and demand issues like that. So we are now developing apartment complexes here in San Diego and doing well. So I'm really bullish on this city. It's growing. A lot of people from the Bay Area moving down here, a lot of jobs. So I'm bullish on San Diego.
Very cool. And yeah, San Diego, didn't you guys just pass kind of a similar thing that Seattle passed, or maybe Seattle passed it after you guys passed it, where you can basically add a dadu to any single family lot out there?
Yeah. So, they expanded it. So San Diego is the only city in the country to have a bonus ADU program. So ADUs, for people that don't know, very quick, are basically apartment units you can add to a single family home. Some states, allow a maximum of 2, including California in most cases. And San Diego made it to where you can build an unlimited number of ADUs up to the floor area ratio of the lot. So that's why, you can, depending on a couple factors with the lot, you can build 10 units, 20 units, 30. I've seen 40 units. So, it's a really kind of unique strategy.
So you can build an ADU up to the lot lines. I mean, obviously you have your setbacks, but you can fill the entire footprint of the lot with ADUs.
Correct. Yeah. So the floor area ratio, depending on what a lot is zoned, it'll have a number for the floor area ratio. So let's just say it's 1.0. You multiply that by the lot size and then subtract the existing home square footage. And that's how much livable square footage you have left that you can build on the lot using ADUs. And then as an example, we have a property a half mile from the beach that we're building 9 additional units on. So it's going to be a 10-unit complex with a 3-story apartment behind the house.
Wow. That's awesome. Especially in those markets that are constrained like that, building is absolutely fantastic. And if you can buy a single family with the ability to expand that, I'm sure the return there is great. So
yeah, especially because we're building these for on average like $200,000 per unit, and they will trade and sell at $450,000 plus per unit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the median house, purchase price in San Diego, it's got to be up there, 450, 500,000. Yeah.
Oh
Crazy.
yeah.
All right. Well, next question is about finding deals. You've kind of already alluded to this, but what is your favorite way to find good deals?
So for single family, which was what we're buying now, my favorite way is wholesalers. Just calling as many wholesalers as you can, have them working for you, and you basically pay them an assignment fee for their work. It's either that or you can set up all your systems yourself with direct mail marketing and whatnot. But we like wholesalers because we're busy guys and it's easier to do that. If you're going to be doing multifamily, no question, brokers. However, you can do the same strategy with multifamily by reaching out, direct mail marketing, calling, emailing, whatever, owners. And that's also a good way. But going directly to brokers and networking with them is the easiest way to get deals.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you get we do direct to seller. So we do, mailers, texting, cold calling. Once you get the systems up, I feel like it's easier to do off market, but if you don't have the systems in place, brokers are definitely the way to go.
Oh yeah.
All right. Second to last question is about your lessons learned. So not every deal goes the way that we expect it to. What is one deal that kind of went south, and what was the lesson you pulled from it?
My very first deal, that 32-unit apartment that we ended up doing well on, that was the one that went south. And it went south because we ran out of basically capital to continue renovations. And we were able to borrow money from a private investor to finish the business plan. But from that, I learned that number one, what you're dealing with really old assets. And like we talked about earlier, peeling back the walls, and there's more and more issues. But I think the biggest lesson was doing extremely thorough inspections and really understanding every little thing I'm going to have to do to that property. Scoping every single one of the sewer lines to make sure that especially if it's an old asset, to make sure that those old cast iron pipings, et cetera, can handle the load. The air conditioners, I'm always checking HVACs now to get their remaining useful life or estimated remaining useful life. Because, that property, we had like 2 air conditioners a month dying on us in the summer. So I learned a lot of lessons about just really, really thorough due diligence. And that's what I would recommend to anybody listening to this podcast. Pay extra money and do the most due diligence that you possibly can during the due diligence phase to know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
Yep. Yeah. Second that. And I like that you said I don't know if you said this, but it definitely was implied that you wish you went in with more capital. Because I've run into that so many times and I freaking haven't learned my lesson yet. But when you scope out your work, multiply it by 1.2. make sure you have enough capital, because things are always going to come up that you didn't expect. Even if you did great due diligence and you feel like you know everything, sometimes things just happen. And if you don't have the capital ready to make those improvements, then you're going to have to go out there and source more capital, or you're going to have to wait until cash flow gives you the necessary amount. So, going into a deal with the necessary amount of capital is so important. And it's a lesson I've learned too many times. And just
Same.
something
nowadays I was even thinking of bumping it up to 30%, because, the 20% contingency capital that can go quick nowadays, quicker than you can imagine.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a good lesson. All right, that leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you, learn a little bit about what you guys are doing down there in San Diego. So what is the best way for people to reach out?
So the best way is you can reach out to me on Instagram. It's my first name _ last name, Shawn _ DeMartile, which you'll be able to get the spelling for that from this podcast episode. The other way you can find me is investorshawn.com. My name is spelled SHAWN, investorshawn.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, I actually have a free ebook about this whole bonus ADU strategy here in San Diego, so you can learn more about that if you want. And then there's links to every other way that you can get a hold of me on that website.
Perfect. So that is investorshawn.com, and then Shawn DeMartile. DeMartile is spelled DIMARTILE. And I will put those links in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down the full description. In there, you can find Shawn's link. All right, man, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for happening on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.